Okay, let's look at some solutions to these problems today. The first problem, the square, I've drawn it. It has a perimeter of 40. The perimeter is the sum of the sides, so that means each of my sides must be 10. So I've got 10 for my sides all the way around. Now, to find out the area, I need to remember that the area is the base times the height. In this case, that's going to be 10 times 10 for a total of 100 for my area. On the next problem, I did draw an isosceles right triangle. It's important not to draw a triangle that's isosceles or right unless the problem actually says it's isosceles and right. But in this case, we know it's isosceles right, and that's very useful because that means these two sides are equal to each other and it's a right angle. Now, it tells me the area of the triangle is 8. I need to recall that the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. And in this case, it's useful because the base and the height are the same thing. So I can basically say, well, my base is x and my height is x, and they're both equal to x. So I have 1/2 x times x, which is x squared, equals 8. Once you get that, you can multiply by 2, and that will give you that x squared is 16. And once you have x squared is 16, you can take the square root and figure out that the length of the side is actually going to be 4. Now, I am not done with the problem yet because although I know these two sides are 4, I still don't know the third side. So it's time to pull out the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is going to be that 4 squared plus 4 squared, the two legs have to go on this left-hand side of my equation for a and b, equals c squared. So once I have that set up, I can add that together. 4 squared and 4 squared is 16 plus 16, which is 32, equals c squared. Now you're going to have to pull out a calculator to figure out what the square root of 32 is, and it's going to come out that c is about 5.6. And now once I know my third side is 5.6, I can add up all three sides to get my perimeter, which is going to be really close to 13.6. Okay, that last problem had several steps. This one's not quite as bad. It is true that this triangle is very important, and since OC and ON are both radiuses of a circle, all the radiuses of the circle have to be equal, so I can mark those as congruent. That lets me know I have an isosceles triangle. Now, since this triangle is isosceles, I can do 180, subtract my 50, and that's going to give me 130 left for my two base angles. Since that's both base angles put together, I'm going to have to divide that by 2 to figure out that the base angles are 65 degrees each. Now, I can use the fact that this angle here and this angle here have to add to 180 to know that 180 minus 65 is going to give me the angle I've been looking for the whole time. It might be helpful for you on a problem like this when you get started to mark the angle that you're looking for, and that way you know your goal. But as you can see, sometimes you have to be willing to find another angle that's not actually what you're looking for to get the correct final answer of 115. On this problem, I've gone ahead and I've drawn my circle and I've inscribed it or put it inside of a square. And I've also have a radius, which is I can label as 3. Now, if the radius is 3, you notice if I stick another radius right here that is also 3, I have the full diameter of the circle, and it turns out the diameter of the circle is the same as the side of the square, which is 6. So if one side of the square is 6, since this is a square, all the sides are 6. The area is base times height, or 36. If you can draw the diagram correctly, this problem is not too challenging. Without the diagram, it's a very hard problem. This last problem will use the same diagram as the previous problem. It talks about the square's perimeter. The perimeter is what I get when I add up all the sides. So 6 for all the sides, and that will be 6 times 4 is 24. It also talks about the circumference of the circle. The formula for circumference of a circle is that the circumference equals 2 pi times the radius. It's like the square comes off of the r that you had for area and jumps in front, so circumference is 2 pi times the radius. So in this case, it's just 2 pi times 3, or 6 pi for the circumference of this circle when you do 2 pi times 3 for my radius. Now the ratio, that does work in order, so you put the square's perimeter first as your numerator, the circumference of the circle second as your denominator. Now you notice this does not match any of your answer choices exactly. If you notice, 6 divided by 24 does reduce to 4. So that's why the answer is C, 4 pi. You could also get it by typing 24 divided by 6 pi in your calculator, getting the decimal, and then check the answer choices until you get the matching decimal, and you would find out that C was the only decimal that matched. 2 different ways to finish up that problem. Have a great day.